I was 68 years old when my brother threw me down the front steps of my own childhood home, and my 89-year-old mother stood at the door screaming that I'd better sign those papers or I'd regret ever being born. Let me tell you something. When you land hard on concrete at my age, every bone in your body sends up a prayer. I felt my left hip crack against the walkway, tasted blood where I'd bit my tongue, and heard my phone skitter across the pavement into the azalea bushes. My brother Terrence stood on the porch, chest heaving, eyes wild with something I'd never seen before. Not anger, greed. Pure, naked greed. "You got 1 hour, Willa," he said, his voice shaking. 1 hour to come back in here and sign everything over to Mama like it should have been. Or we calling the police and telling them you attacked us. Behind him, his wife Geneva appeared, with her phone already raised, camera pointed at me. She'd probably been recording since they grabbed me. I could see Mama in the doorway, her church hat still pinned to her hair from the funeral earlier that day. My grandmother's funeral. Mama Cleo's funeral. "Don't you come back without signing," Mama hollered. "That money is mine. I'm her daughter, not you. You nothing but a charity case she pitied." The door slammed. The deadbolt clicked. And I was alone on the sidewalk in my black funeral dress with gravel embedded in my palms and my grandmother's voice echoing in my head from 3 months ago. "Willa, baby, when I'm gone, you gonna see who people really are. Don't you break. You hear me? Don't you dare break." I didn't break. Not then, not ever. But let me back up, because you need to understand how we got here. Mama Cleo died on a Tuesday morning in August. She was 107 years old and sharp as a tack until the very end. I'd been her primary caregiver for the last 23 years, ever since I took early retirement from the post office to move back home. Terrence lived 15 minutes away and visited maybe twice a year. Mama lived in Florida and called every few months to ask if Mother had died yet and left her anything. My grandmother didn't just raise me, she saved me. When I was 7 and my mother decided she didn't want to be bothered with a second child, Mama Cleo took me in. When I was 14 and Mama tried to force me to drop out of school to work, Mama Cleo threatened to call child services. When I was 23 and got divorced from a man who put his hands on me, Mama Cleo gave me a place to heal. Terrence was the golden child, the son, the one who could do no wrong even when he was doing everything wrong. Mama favored him so much she paid for his business school, his first house, his second wife's engagement ring after he cheated through his first marriage. She gave him everything, and he still wanted more. The funeral was at Rising Star Missionary Baptist Church on a Saturday afternoon. The church was packed. Mama Cleo had been a pillar of that community for 85 years. Deacon Hayes gave a beautiful eulogy. Sister Francine sang, "Blessed Assurance," so pretty it made the whole congregation weep. I sat in the front pew alone because Terrence said his back hurt and Mama complained the church was too hot. After the service, we had a small repast in the church fellowship hall. I'd made Mama Cleo's famous peach cobbler from her recipe, the one she'd taught me when I was 9 years old. People kept hugging me, telling me how much she loved me, how she always bragged about what a good granddaughter I was. Terrence spent the whole time on his phone. Geneva kept checking her watch. Mama held court in the corner, accepting condolences like a queen, dabbing at dry eyes with a lace handkerchief. The lawyer, Mr. Reginald Caldwell, had arranged to read the will that same evening at Mama's house. Mama Cleo's house, really, though Mama had been counting it as hers for years. Mr. Caldwell was an older gentleman, maybe 75, with silver hair and the kind of dignified presence that made you sit up straight. He'd handled Mama Cleo's affairs for over 30 years. We gathered in the living room at 6 o'clock. Me, Terrence, Geneva, Mama, and Mr. Caldwell. The house still smelled like Mama Cleo's rose perfume. Her reading glasses were still on the side table next to her Bible. I'd sat with her in this very room 3 nights before she passed, holding her hand while she told me stories about her childhood in Mississippi. Mr. Caldwell opened his briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. "This is going to be straightforward," he said. "Mrs. Cleopatra Townsend was very clear about her wishes." Mama leaned forward. I could see her calculating already. The house was worth maybe $300,000. There was probably some savings, maybe a life insurance policy. She'd been asking Mama Cleo about money for years, always getting shut down. "To my daughter, Dolores Hayes," Mr. Caldwell read. "I leave my collection of cookware and my Bible with the hope that she might learn something about charity before she meets her Maker." The room went silent. Terrence's head snapped up. "What?" "To my grandson, Terrence Hayes," Mr. Caldwell continued. "I leave the sum of $1, as that is approximately the value of the time and care he has shown me in my final years." Geneva gasped. Terrence jumped to his feet. "This is bullshit! She was senile. She didn't know what she was doing." Before we continue, please drop a comment if you've ever experienced something like this. We'd love to hear your story, and subscribe to the channel to help us grow. Mr. Caldwell didn't even blink. He'd probably seen this coming. Mrs. Palmsey Townsend was examined by 3 separate physicians in the 6 months before her death. All confirmed she was of completely sound mind. I have the documentation here. "Then who—" Mama couldn't even finish the sentence. Her eyes swung to me like a weapon. "To my beloved granddaughter, Willa May Hayes," Mr. Caldwell read, and his voice softened just a little. "Who has shown me more love, patience, and devotion than I ever deserved. I leave the entirety of my remaining estate. This includes all properties, investments, savings, and holdings." My mouth went dry. I knew Mama Cleo had been comfortable, but I'd never asked about her finances. It felt disrespectful, like I was waiting for her to die. "The total value of the estate," Mr. Caldwell said, looking directly at me now, "is approximately $38 million. I want to tell you I heard what happened next, but honestly, my ears were ringing so loud I couldn't hear anything. 38 million. 38 million. The number didn't make sense. It couldn't be real. But it was real. Mama Cleo had been a school teacher back when black teachers made pennies, but she'd invested wisely. She'd bought properties in what became prime areas. She'd saved every penny and made it grow. And she'd never told a soul except her lawyer, and apparently her doctors who'd needed to confirm she knew exactly what she was doing when she made this will. Terrence was screaming. I remember that. Geneva was screaming. Mama had gone completely still, her face twisted into something I'd never seen before. Pure hatred. "No," Mama whispered. Then louder. "No. This is theft. She stole from Mother. She manipulated a dying old woman." Mr. Caldwell stood up. "Mrs. Hayes, I understand this is emotional, but I assure you everything was done legally and ethically. Mrs. Townsend made this decision 5 years ago and reaffirmed it every year since." 5 years? Mama's voice could have cut glass. 5 years. That would have been right after I moved in full-time, right after I gave up my own apartment to care for Mama Cleo around the clock. "Get out," Mama said to Mr. Caldwell. "Get out of my house." "This is actually Willa's house now," Mr. Caldwell said gently. "Along with 3 other properties in the city, 2 in Atlanta and 1 in—" "Get out!" Mr. Caldwell gathered his papers calmly. He handed me a business card. "Ms. Hayes, please call my office Monday morning. We have a lot to discuss. Don't sign anything, don't agree to anything, and don't let anyone pressure you. These are your assets now, legally and completely." I took the card with shaking hands. I couldn't look at my family. I couldn't breathe. After Mr. Caldwell left, the house went quiet. Too quiet. I could hear the old clock ticking in the hallway, the one Mama Cleo wound every Sunday night. "Willa," Terrence said, and his voice had changed, softened. "Willa, sis, listen. This is crazy, right? You know Mama Cleo loved all of us. She must have been confused or—" "3 doctors said she wasn't confused," I said quietly. "But $38 million, Willa, think about it. That's family money. That should be split up properly, fairly. Mama's her daughter. I'm her grandson. You can't just— Get out, I said. I'd never said those words to my brother in my entire life. Never stood up to him, never talked back, never challenged him. I was the quiet one, the grateful one, the one who didn't make waves. Terrence blinked. What? I said, get out. This is my house now, and I'm tired. We just buried my grandmother and I need to be alone. That's when everything changed. I saw Terrence's face shift, saw Geneva whisper something to Mama, saw them all exchange a look that made my stomach drop. You're right, Terrence said, smiling now, which was worse than the yelling. You're tired. We're all tired. Let's talk tomorrow, okay? Family should stick together. They left, all three of them, walking out into the night, whispering to each other on the front lawn before they got in their cars. I locked the door behind them and stood in Mama Cleo's house, my house, and cried for the first time since she'd passed. I didn't know then that they weren't going home. I didn't know they were sitting in Terrence's car 3 blocks away, planning, scheming, making phone calls to lawyers and researching how to contest a will. I didn't know that in 24 hours they'd be back with papers they'd had drawn up overnight, demanding I sign over a fair portion to the rightful heirs. I didn't know that when I refused, Terrence would grab me by my arms, drag me to the front door, and throw me down those concrete steps like I was nothing. But I did know one thing, even then, standing alone in that quiet house. Mama Cleo had seen this coming. She'd known exactly what they'd do, and she'd prepared for it. In her bedroom, in the bottom drawer of her dresser underneath her wedding quilt, there was a ledger, a thick leather-bound book filled with her neat handwriting. Dates, amounts, names, transactions, and next to it, a small digital recorder with dozens of audio files. I'd found them 2 days before she passed, when she'd asked me to bring her the quilt. She'd pressed the ledger into my hands and said, "When they show you who they are, you show them who you've become." Now, lying on that concrete with my hip screaming and my family declaring war, I finally understood what she meant. They wanted to play games with a dying woman's last wishes. They wanted to bully and threaten me into giving up what I'd earned through 23 years of love and sacrifice. Fine. But this time, I wasn't the powerless little girl they'd pushed around my whole life. I wasn't the scapegoat anymore. I was the one with $38 million, a dead grandmother's blessing, and evidence of every dirty secret they'd been keeping for years. Let the games begin. I don't know how long I laid there on that concrete before Miss Opal from next door found me. "Sweet Jesus," I heard her cry out, and then her weathered hands were on my shoulders, her face swimming into view above me. "Willa, baby, can you hear me? Jerome, call 911. "No," I managed to say, though my tongue was thick and my mouth tasted like copper. "No ambulance, please." "Child, you're hurt. I saw what they did. I saw that devil Terrence throw you down these steps like you were garbage. I already called the police." My heart seized. "Miss Opal, no, you don't understand." "I understand plenty. Been watching that family treat you like a servant for 23 years while you took care of Cleo. I got eyes, baby. I got eyes." She was 76 years old and strong as oak, that woman. She and her husband Jerome had lived next door to Mama Cleo for 40 years. They helped me get to my feet, walked me across the lawn to their house, and set me down in their kitchen while we waited for the police. "They locked you out?" Jerome asked, his voice tight with anger. He was a retired postal worker like me, built like a linebacker even at 80 years old. "They want me to sign papers. The inheritance. Mama Cleo left me everything and they want me to give it to them." Miss Opal made a sound in her throat. "Cleo told me she was doing that. Told me 6 months ago. Said you were the only one who loved her for herself, not for what you could get. Said those vultures were already circling, asking about her will, her bank accounts, her properties. She told you? Baby, Cleo and I had coffee every Thursday morning for 38 years. I knew everything. Miss Opal squeezed my hand. And I know she left you something else, too. She told me if anything ever happened, if they ever came after you, I should remind you about the truth she kept. The ledger, the recordings. 2 police officers arrived 20 minutes later. Officer Bryant was a younger black woman, maybe 35, with sharp eyes that didn't miss anything. Officer Kowalski was an older white man with a tired face and a wedding ring worn thin. They took my statement, took photos of my scraped palms, my torn stockings, the bruises already blooming on my hip and shoulder. Miss Opal showed them the security camera footage from her doorbell. She'd gotten it installed last Christmas, and it had a perfect view of Mama Cleo's front porch. We watched on her tablet as Terrence grabbed me, as I tried to pull away, as he dragged me to the door and shoved me hard enough that I tumbled down all 6 steps. Geneva filming the whole time, Mama screaming in the background. Officer Bryant's jaw tightened. That's assault. Clear as day. It's also elder abuse, Officer Kowalski added. Ma'am, do you want to press charges? I thought about it. Thought about Terrence in handcuffs. Thought about Mama's face when the police came for her golden boy. Part of me wanted it so badly I could taste it. But Mama Cleo's voice was in my head again. Don't give them the quick ending, baby. Make them sit in what they've done. Make them face it all. Not yet, I said. But I want this documented. I want a report filed, and I want my belongings from that house. Officer Bryant nodded. We can escort you to retrieve your personal items. It's your legal residence and your property now, correct? Yes, ma'am. We went back across the lawn, the 4 of us, me, Jerome, Miss Opal, and Officer Bryant. Officer Kowalski stayed by the patrol car talking into his radio. I still had my key. My hands shook as I unlocked the door. The house had been ransacked. Every drawer dumped out. Every closet emptied. The couch cushions thrown across the room. Mama Cleo's bedroom, my bedroom for 23 years, looked like a tornado had hit it. They'd torn through everything, clearly searching for something. The ledger. Lord have mercy, Miss Opal breathed. Officer Bryant was already taking photos. Ms. Hayes, is anything missing that you can see? I did a quick inventory. My clothes were there, just scattered. My toiletries, my photo albums. They hadn't wanted any of that. They'd been looking for documents, bank statements, the will, anything that might tell them how to get to that $38 million. But the ledger and recorder weren't in the dresser drawer anymore. Because the night before, after they'd left, I'd put them somewhere safer. I'd put them in the one place Terrence would never think to look, the church. Before we continue, please comment below, as I'd love to hear your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel to help us hit that big 1,000 subscriber milestone. I packed 2 suitcases with essentials. Miss Opal insisted I stay with them until I figured things out, and I was too tired and sore to argue. Officer Bryant gave me her card and said she'd be in touch about the report. That night, I couldn't sleep. I laid in Miss Opal's guest bedroom with ice on my hip and my mind racing. Tomorrow was Sunday. Tomorrow I'd go to Rising Star for service like I did every Sunday, and I'd retrieve what Mama Cleo had left me. Then I'd know exactly what I was dealing with. Sunday morning came bright and clear. Miss Opal fussed over me at breakfast, making sure I ate, making sure I took some Tylenol for the pain. Jerome offered to come to church with me, but I told him I'd be fine. You sure? He asked, concerned. Your family might be there. I'm counting on it, I said. Rising Star was already filling up when I arrived at 10:30. I'd been a member of that church for 61 years, got baptized there when I was 7, sang in the youth choir, taught Sunday school for 15 years before Mama Cleo needed me full-time. These were my people. Deacon Hayes met me at the door. Sister Willa, how you holding up, baby? I'm managing, Deacon. The Lord is good. All the time, he responded automatically. Then quieter. Heard there was some trouble yesterday, after the reading. News traveled fast in the church. Yes, sir. Family matters. He nodded slowly. Your grandmother was a wise woman. She talked to Pastor Franklin and me about a month before she passed. Said she was worried about you, about what might happen when she was gone. Said she'd made provisions, but she wasn't sure if you were strong enough to stand up for yourself. My throat tightened. She said that? Mm-hmm. I told her she was wrong. Told her you were stronger than you knew. That you'd been holding up the whole family for years, and they just didn't see it. He patted my shoulder. Think it's time you showed them, Sister Willa. Think it's past time. I found my seat, 3rd row from the front, left side, same seat I'd sat in every Sunday for 6 decades. Terrence wasn't there. Geneva wasn't there. But Mama was, sitting on the opposite side, surrounded by her friends, already playing the grieving daughter who'd lost her mother. Pastor Franklin's sermon that morning was from Luke 12:15. Take heed, and beware of covetousness. For a man's life consisteth not in the abundance of the things which he possesseth. I saw Mama shift uncomfortably in her seat. After service, I went to Pastor Franklin's office. He was expecting me. Mama Cleo had arranged that too, I learned. He handed me a manila envelope with my name on it in her handwriting. She gave me this 3 weeks before she passed, Pastor said. He was 62, been leading Rising Star for 20 years, and he'd known Mama Cleo since he was a boy in her Sunday school class. Made me promise to give it to you the Sunday after her funeral. Said you'd need it. Inside the envelope was a key to a safety deposit box and a letter. My precious Willa, it read. If you're reading this, then I'm home with Jesus and you're facing the storm I knew was coming. I'm sorry, baby. Sorry I can't be there to stand with you, but I've given you everything you need to weather it. The ledger shows the money, the recordings show the truth, and this key opens the proof that will end it all. Be strong. Be brave. And remember, you don't owe anyone anything except what you owe yourself. Love, Mama Cleo. I sat in Pastor Franklin's office and cried. He let me, just sat there quiet and patient until I was done. You need anything, Sister Willa, he said when I finally looked up. Anything at all? You call me. Day or night. This church stands with you. Thank you, Pastor. I went to the safety deposit box that afternoon. It was at Freedom Community Bank, the Black-owned bank where Mama Cleo had done business for 50 years. The manager, Mr. Dwayne Fletcher, recognized me immediately. Ms. Hayes, he said warmly, I'm so sorry for your loss. Mrs. Townsend was a remarkable woman. Thank you. You're here for box 347? He'd already been notified, I realized. Mama Cleo had set this all up like dominoes, each piece falling exactly when and where it needed to. In the privacy of the small viewing room, I opened the box. Inside were documents. Dozens of them. Copies of checks, bank statements, legal papers, and a letter of explanation in Mama Cleo's handwriting, detailing everything. My mother had been stealing from her for 15 years. Since 2008, when Mama Cleo had had a minor stroke and asked Mama to help manage some of her bills. Mama had used that access to siphon off thousands of dollars, $20,000 here, $30,000 there, always just small enough that Mama Cleo might not notice right away. But Mama Cleo had noticed, had documented every theft, had quietly closed the accounts Mama had access to and opened new ones, had gathered evidence but never confronted her, because, as she wrote in her letter, I wanted to see if my own daughter would confess, if she'd feel guilt, if she'd stop on her own. She never did. She just got greedier. Terrence was worse. He'd forged Mama Cleo's signature on a loan application in 2015, using her house as collateral to get $200,000 for a business investment that went belly up in 6 months. Mama Cleo had found out when the bank called about missed payments. She'd paid off the loan herself to save the house, but she'd kept every document showing what he'd done. Then there were the recordings. Hours of them. Mama and Terrence talking on the phone, discussing how much longer the old bat would live, how they'd split the inheritance, how they'd put me in my place once they had control of the money. "Willa will do whatever we tell her to do," Mama's voice said on one recording from just 6 months ago. "She's weak, always has been. We'll tell her she's getting a small allowance and she'll be grateful for it. Probably won't even question us." "And if she does?" Terrence asked. "Then we'll remind her that we're blood and she's nothing. A charity case. We'll make her feel guilty until she caves. It's what she does." They were laughing. Both of them, laughing about how they'd manipulate me, control me, take everything that should have been mine. But the worst recording was from 2 months before Mama Cleo died. Terrence and Geneva, talking in what they thought was an empty house. I'd been at the grocery store. Mama Cleo had been napping. "How much longer, you think?" Geneva asked. "Doctor said maybe 6 months. Her heart's giving out. 6 months is a long time, and Willa's got her on all those medications, keeping her going." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying maybe some of those pills get missed. Maybe she gets a little more confused, a little weaker. Maybe things happen faster." There was a long pause on the recording. Then Terrence. "We'd have to be careful." "Of course, but Willa's so scatterbrained, who would question it? Old woman, 107, heart problems. It's natural causes." My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped the recorder. They'd been planning to kill her, to speed up her death so they could get the money faster. And they would have blamed me for it. Mama Cleo had heard them, had recorded them, and had quietly arranged for round-the-clock monitoring of her medications after that, telling me it was just to be safe, but never explaining why. I sat in that bank viewing room for 2 hours, reading and listening, watching my family reveal themselves as monsters, watching myself through their eyes, weak, stupid, controllable, a tool to be used. By the time I walked out of Freedom Community Bank, something had shifted in me. The last little bit of guilt I'd felt about the inheritance, the last little voice that said, maybe I should share, maybe I should be generous, it was gone. I called Mr. Caldwell from the parking lot. "Ms. Hayes?" he answered on the first ring. "I've been hoping you'd call. Are you all right? I heard there was an incident. I need to see you first thing tomorrow morning. I have evidence you need to hear. And I need to know what legal actions we can take." "Evidence of what nature?" "Theft, fraud, forgery, conspiracy, and attempted murder." There was a brief silence. Then, "I'll clear my calendar. Come to my office at 8 a.m. And Ms. Hayes, don't go back to that house alone. If you need security, I can arrange it. I'm staying with neighbors. I'll be safe." But I wasn't safe. Not really. Because when I got back to Miss Opal's house that evening, there were 3 cars parked outside. Terrence's Mercedes, Mama's Cadillac, and another car I didn't recognize, a sleek black BMW. They were waiting for me on Miss Opal's front porch. Terrence, Geneva, Mama, and a man in an expensive suit with a briefcase. "Willa," the man said, standing up and extending his hand like we were friends. "My name is Khalil Morrison. I'm an attorney representing your family. We need to talk about resolving this inheritance matter before it gets ugly and public. I think we can come to an arrangement that benefits everyone." Behind him, Terrence was smiling, that same calculating smile from yesterday. Miss Opal appeared in the doorway behind them, her face tight with anger. "I told them you weren't here. They said they'd wait." "It's okay, Miss Opal." I looked at the lawyer, at my family, at their confident faces that said they thought they had me cornered. "You want to talk? Fine, let's talk." I led them into Miss Opal's living room. Jerome positioned himself in the doorway, arms crossed, making it clear he wasn't going anywhere. Mr. Morrison opened his briefcase. "Ms. Hayes, your family is prepared to offer you a very generous settlement. $2 million free and clear, in exchange for transferring the remainder of the estate to its rightful heirs, Mrs. Dolores Hayes and Mr. Terrence Hayes. This way everyone wins. There's no ugly legal battle and family harmony is preserved. 2 million out of 38 million, I said flatly. That's your offer. It's more than fair considering you have no biological claim to the estate. You were never formally adopted. Legally speaking, you're not even Mrs. Townsend's granddaughter. Mama leaned forward. We're being kind, Willa. We could take you to court. We could fight this will and tie everything up for years. You wouldn't see a penny. This way, you walk away rich. Richer than you ever dreamed. And if I say no? Terrence's smile vanished. Then we make things difficult. We contest the will. We claim you manipulated her, isolated her from her real family. We show how you controlled her medications, her doctors, her entire life. How you were the only one with her when she died. Geneva pulled out her phone. We have evidence too, Willa. Videos of you refusing to let us visit. Recordings of you talking to her doctors without our permission. We'll paint a picture of elder abuse and manipulation that'll make your head spin. They thought they had me. I could see it in their faces. The certainty that I'd crumble, that I'd take their scraps and be grateful. I reached into my purse and pulled out my own phone. Set it on the coffee table. Pressed play on the first recording. Mama's voice filled the room. Willa will do whatever we tell her to do. She's weak. Always has been. I watched their faces change. Watched the color drain from Mama's cheeks. Watched Terrence go rigid. I stopped the recording. I have 47 more just like that one. I also have documented proof of 15 years of theft, bank fraud, forgery, and, my personal favorite, a conversation about speeding up Mama Cleo's death so you could get your hands on her money faster. The lawyer's eyes went wide. Ms. Hayes, You should leave, I said to him. This conversation is over, and unless you want to be implicated in conspiracy to commit fraud, you'll withdraw from representing these people immediately. Mr. Morrison grabbed his briefcase and stood up so fast he almost knocked over his chair. I was not aware of any criminal activity. I was hired this morning under false pretenses. Good evening. He was out the door in 10 seconds. Terrence lunged at me. You bitch! You sneaky little... Jerome had him by the collar before he got within 2 feet of me. Back up, Jerome said quietly, and there was something in his voice that made Terrence freeze. You already assaulted her once. I'd love to see you try it again in my house. Willa, Mama's voice was shaking. Baby, those recordings, where did you get... Mama Cleo left them to me, along with all the bank records showing how you stole from her for 15 years, along with the forged loan documents Terrence created, along with everything else I need to send both of you to prison. You wouldn't, Mama whispered. Try me. Geneva was crying now, mascara running down her face. Terrence, we need to go. We need to go right now. Listen to your wife, I said. Get out of this house. Get off this property. And if any of you come near me again, if you contact me, if you so much as drive down this street, I'm taking everything I have to the police and the district attorney. Do you understand me? Mama stood up, and for a second I saw something flicker in her eyes. Maybe regret, maybe fear, but definitely not love. There'd never been love there. Not for me. You're going to regret this, she said. Family is family, Willa. Blood is blood. Then you should have remembered that before you spent my whole life making me feel like I wasn't either one. They left. All 3 of them, stumbling out into the night, their plan in ruins, their golden ticket gone. Miss Opal brought me a cup of tea. Jerome locked all the doors and windows, and I sat on their couch, shaking with adrenaline and triumph and terror. I'd won this battle, but the war was just beginning. My phone rang at midnight. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Hello? Heavy breathing on the other end. Then Terrence's voice, low and venomous. "You think you're smart? You think some recordings scare me? I know people, Willa. People who can make problems disappear. You better watch your back." The line went dead. And suddenly, $38 million felt like a target painted on my spine. I didn't sleep that night. Just sat in Miss Opal's guest bedroom with the lights on and my phone in my hand, replaying Terrence's threat over and over. People who can make problems disappear. At 6 a.m., I called Officer Bryant. She arrived at 7 with a detective. Detective Morris Washington, a black man in his 50s with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. I played them the threatening call. I'd recorded it. Mama Cleo had taught me in those final weeks to record everything. "Trust is earned," she'd said, "and your family stopped earning it a long time ago." Detective Washington's jaw tightened as he listened. "Ms. Hayes, this is a credible threat. Combined with the assault from Saturday, we have grounds for a restraining order at minimum. But Officer Bryant mentioned you have other evidence?" I showed them everything: the ledger, the recordings, the bank documents. 2 hours later, Detective Washington was on the phone with the district attorney's office, and Officer Bryant was arranging for a patrol car to drive past Miss Opal's house every hour. "Ms. Hayes," Detective Washington said when he finished his calls, "the DA wants to meet with you this afternoon. What you have here, this is fraud, forgery, theft, conspiracy, and now criminal threats. If even half of this holds up, your mother and brother are looking at serious prison time." My hands were shaking. I just wanted them to leave me alone. "I understand, but they threatened you, and the evidence suggests they were willing to harm Mrs. Townsend to get her money. We can't ignore that." At 8 a.m., I met with Mr. Caldwell at his office. He'd brought in 2 other lawyers, a criminal attorney named Yvette Harrison and an estate litigation specialist named Tobias Green. Both black, both sharp as knives, both personally offended by what my family had tried to do. "Mrs. Townsend was a legend in this community," Ms. Harrison said. "She was maybe 45, with silver-streaked locks and a presence that filled the room. She taught my mother. She was at my law school graduation. And she talked about you, Willa. Talked about how proud she was of you, how you'd sacrificed everything to care for her." "She also talked about your family," Mr. Green added. He was younger, maybe 35, with wire-rimmed glasses and the intensity of someone who loved a good fight. "Told anyone who'd listen that her daughter was a thief and her grandson was a con man. She wanted everyone to know, in case they tried to claim she was incompetent or manipulated." Mr. Caldwell opened a thick file. "Willa, your grandmother spent the last 5 years of her life building an ironclad case, not just for the inheritance, but against anyone who might challenge it. She had 3 psychiatric evaluations confirming her mental competency. She had affidavits from her doctors, her pastor, her neighbors, all testifying that she was of sound mind and that you were her primary caregiver who never asked for anything. She even had video recordings." "Video?" He turned his laptop toward me. On the screen was Mama Cleo sitting in her favorite chair, wearing her Sunday best. The date stamp said it was from 2 years ago. "My name is Cleopatra May Townsend." Her voice came through the speakers, strong and clear. "I am 105 years old, and I am of completely sound mind. I'm making this recording to state clearly and unequivocally that my granddaughter, Willa May Hayes, is the sole heir to my estate, because she is the only member of my family who has shown me genuine love and care. My daughter Dolores has stolen from me. My grandson Terrence has forged my name and defrauded me. And both of them have made it clear they're only waiting for me to die so they can take what I've built. I will not let that happen. Everything I have goes to Willa, and anyone who contests this is proving exactly why they don't deserve it." Tears streamed down my face as I watched her. Even from beyond the grave, Mama Cleo was protecting me. "There are 5 more videos like this," Mr. Caldwell said gently. "One recorded every 6 months for the last 2.5 years. Your grandmother left nothing to chance." Before we continue, if this story resonates with you, please hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss our next story. By that afternoon, the machine was in motion. The DA's office filed criminal charges against Mama and Terrence: grand theft, forgery, fraud, and criminal conspiracy. Warrants were issued, and I filed for a restraining order against both of them and Geneva. The story hit the local news by evening. Elderly woman's caregiver inherits millions, while family faces fraud charges. My phone started ringing. Reporters, distant cousins I hadn't heard from in decades, even a producer from one of those daytime court shows. I turned it all off. Stayed at Miss Opal's. Let my lawyers handle it. Terrence and Mama were arrested on Tuesday morning. I didn't watch, but Miss Opal told me the whole neighborhood saw them being led out of their homes in handcuffs. Geneva wasn't charged. She'd been smart enough to call her own lawyer and offer to testify against Terrence in exchange for immunity. The arraignment was set for Friday. Mr. Caldwell said I didn't have to attend, but I wanted to, needed to look them in the eye and show them I wasn't afraid anymore. Friday morning, I walked into that courthouse with my lawyers on either side of me and my church family filling the gallery behind me. Pastor Franklin was there, Deacon Hayes, Sister Francine, Miss Opal and Jerome, 30 members of Rising Star dressed in their Sunday best, making sure I knew I wasn't alone. Mama and Terrence were brought in separately, both in county jumpsuits, both looking smaller somehow. Diminished. Mama's hair wasn't done. I'd never seen her in public without her hair done. Terrence had bruises on his face. Apparently he'd mouthed off to the wrong person in lockup. Their public defender, a tired-looking young man who couldn't have been more than 28, tried to argue for bail reduction. The DA, a formidable black woman named Charlene Foster, shut that down fast. Your Honor, these defendants have already demonstrated violent behavior toward the victim. Mr. Hayes physically assaulted her, and both defendants have made threats. Ms. Hayes is a 68-year-old woman who has already been injured by these individuals. Additionally, both defendants have means and motive to flee. They were attempting to fraudulently obtain a $38 million estate. The judge, a silver-haired black man named Judge Raymond Carter, peered over his glasses at my family. The court finds the people's arguments persuasive. Bail is set at $500,000 each. Mama actually gasped. Terrence started shouting. This is ridiculous! We're the victims here. That woman manipulated our mother, isolated her from her family. Mr. Hayes, Judge Carter's voice could have cut steel. You are charged with multiple felonies, including forging your grandmother's signature to steal $200,000. I suggest you save your statements for your attorney. Bail stands. They were led out, still protesting. Mama's eyes found mine for just a second, and what I saw there wasn't anger. It was disbelief. She genuinely couldn't understand how this had happened, how I, weak, grateful, pushover Willa, had ended up holding all the power. I understood then what Mama Cleo had been trying to teach me all along. Power didn't come from being loud or aggressive or cruel. It came from being prepared, from being patient, from being underestimated and using that to your advantage. The preliminary hearing was set for 3 weeks later. In the meantime, my lawyers filed to have the will executed immediately, bypassing the usual waiting period since there was clear evidence of bad faith contestation. Judge Carter agreed. By the end of that week, I had full legal access to Mama Cleo's estate, $38 million. Mr. Green walked me through it all. The properties, 7 of them, including Mama Cleo's house, worth about $4 million combined. The investment accounts, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, carefully managed over 60 years. The savings accounts in 3 different banks. The life insurance policies. The mineral rights to land in Mississippi that Mama Cleo's family had owned since Reconstruction. You're a very wealthy woman, Ms. Hayes, Mr. Green said. And if you're smart about it, this wealth can sustain not just you, but your legacy for generations. But I didn't have children. Didn't have grandchildren. Didn't have anyone except the church family that had shown up for me when my blood family had failed. I knew what I was going to do with it. Mama Cleo had shown me. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for 3 weeks out, but it never happened. Because 2 weeks after the arraignment, Geneva's testimony to the DA, combined with the evidence I'd provided, was so damning that the public defender advised Mama and Terrence to take a plea deal. Mama pled guilty to grand theft and fraud. 8 years in prison, with possibility of parole after 5. Terrence pled guilty to forgery, fraud, and assault. 12 years, with possibility of parole after 8. The sentencing hearing was the last time I saw them. Mama was 79 years old. She'd likely die in prison. As they led her past me in shackles, she stopped. "I gave birth to you," she whispered. "I'm your mother. How can you do this to me?" For 68 years I'd wanted to hear her call me her daughter, claim me, acknowledge me as hers. Now I felt nothing. "You gave birth to me," I said quietly. "But Mama Cleo raised me. She loved me. She was my mother in every way that mattered. You were just the woman who didn't want me." "Willa." Goodbye, Dolores. I'd never called her by her first name before. The shock on her face was the last thing I saw before the bailiff moved her along. Terrence didn't even look at me, just kept his eyes down, broken in a way I'd never seen. Geneva had divorced him within a week of his arrest, taken everything that was in his name, and moved to Alabama with their kids. He'd lost it all: money, family, freedom, pride. I didn't feel sorry for him. The sentencing was fair, just, and final. 6 months after Mama Cleo's funeral, I stood in the fellowship hall at Rising Star and made an announcement. "I'm establishing the Cleopatra Townsend Foundation," I told the congregation. $20 million to provide scholarships for Black students, support for elderly caregivers, and grants for Black-owned businesses in our community. Because that's what Mama Cleo would have wanted. That's what she taught me. You don't hoard blessings, you share them. The applause was thunderous. Pastor Franklin had tears in his eyes. I kept $5 million for myself, more than enough to live comfortably for the rest of my life, to travel, to finally see all the places I'd dreamed about while I was caring for Mama Cleo. The properties would generate income. I was set. The remaining $13 million went into trusts, for the church, for the community center, for the local historically Black college, for causes Mama Cleo had cared about. I sold Mama's house. I couldn't bear to live in a place where I'd been made to feel so small for so long. Bought myself a beautiful condo downtown with a view of the river. Bought Miss Opal and Jerome a new car to thank them for everything. Took Pastor Franklin and his wife on a cruise. And slowly, carefully, I built a life that was mine. A year after Mama Cleo's death, I was sitting on my balcony watching the sunset when my phone rang. Unknown number, but local area code. I almost didn't answer. "Hello? Ms. Hayes? This is Correctional Counselor Price from the Women's Correctional Facility. Your mother, Dolores Hayes, has requested you as a visitor. She's not doing well. Medical issues. She wanted me to ask if you'd be willing to come see her." I thought about it for a long time. Thought about forgiveness, about mercy, about what Mama Cleo would want me to do. "No," I said finally. "I'm not willing, but you can tell her I hope she finds peace." I hung up. And I didn't feel guilty. Some bridges aren't meant to be rebuilt. Some family ties need to be cut so you can finally be free. Mama Cleo had given me more than money. She'd given me permission to save myself, permission to walk away from people who hurt me, even if they were blood. Permission to build a life based on love, not obligation. 3 years later, I'm 71 years old. I've traveled to Ghana, to Paris, to the Caribbean. I've met beautiful people and made real friends, not people who want something from me, but people who just enjoy my company. I mentor young women at the church, teaching them what Mama Cleo taught me. Your worth isn't determined by how others treat you, it's determined by how you treat yourself. The foundation has given out over 100 scholarships. We've supported 50 small businesses. We've provided care grants to 300 family caregivers who are doing what I did, sacrificing everything to take care of elderly loved ones. Mama Cleo's legacy isn't just money. It's love, multiplied and spread across a whole community. Terrence is still in prison. Last I heard, he found religion, spends his time in the chapel. I hope it's real. I hope he finds genuine redemption, not just performance. Mama died 2 years into her sentence. Heart attack in her sleep. The prison called to ask about funeral arrangements. I had her cremated and buried next to Mama Cleo. I figured I'd let them work it out in the afterlife. I went to the burial, stood at a distance, didn't cry. Geneva tried to reach out to me once, asking if there was anything in the estate for her kids, my brother's children. I sent them each a college fund with one condition. They had to maintain a 3.0 GPA and complete 40 hours of community service each year. I wouldn't punish children for their parents' sins, but I also wouldn't enable entitlement. They're good kids. They send me thank you cards. We have lunch sometimes. They call me Auntie Willa and tell me about their lives, and I listen. I help where I can. But I keep boundaries. I learned that lesson too well to forget it. Last week, I was at the bank, Freedom Community Bank, where I still do all my business, and ran into Mr. Fletcher, the manager. "Ms. Hayes," he said warmly, "I wanted you to know, Mrs. Townsend would be so proud of what you've done with her legacy. She used to tell me, 'That granddaughter of mine has a heart bigger than the whole world.' She was right." I smiled. She gave me the tools. I'm just using them the way she taught me. That night, I sat on my balcony with a glass of sweet tea, made exactly the way Mama Cleo taught me, and watched the city lights come on. Somewhere out there, someone was being underestimated. Someone was being treated like they didn't matter. Someone was quietly enduring, waiting, preparing for the moment when they'd finally show everyone exactly who they were. I hoped they had someone like Mama Cleo in their corner. Someone who saw their worth when no one else did. And if they didn't, I hoped they found the strength to be their own Mama Cleo. To protect themselves, to value themselves, to refuse to accept less than they deserved. Because that's what Mama Cleo taught me in the end. You can't control how people treat you, but you can control whether you accept it. I'd spent 68 years accepting scraps, accepting disrespect, accepting the role of family scapegoat. Then I inherited $38 million and discovered I'd never been weak at all. I'd just been waiting for my moment. And when it came, I didn't waste it. My phone buzzed. A text from Pastor Franklin. "Sunday school class asking when you're going to tell your testimony. They want to hear the whole story." I smiled and typed back, "Soon, when the time is right." But the truth was, I was living my testimony every single day, every scholarship awarded, every caregiver supported, every young woman I mentored who learned she didn't have to accept mistreatment just because it came from family. Mama Cleo hadn't just left me money. She'd left me a roadmap for turning pain into power, betrayal into blessing, and inheritance into legacy. And I was going to spend the rest of my life making sure that roadmap helped others find their way too. The sunset turned the sky pink and gold, and somewhere in heaven, I knew Mama Cleo was smiling. "I did it," I whispered to the evening air. "I didn't break, just like you told me." The wind picked up, warm and gentle, like a grandmother's hand on my cheek. And for the first time in my entire life, I felt completely, utterly, perfectly free. That's all for today's story. If this touched your heart, please subscribe and share your own experiences below. We're all in this together.